It's not unusual in difficult times for people to become anxious, really concerned, worried about their future. The way that we're wired as people is that we respond to perceived threats, and I think that's incredibly important. If you didn't have that mechanism, I don't think you would last very long. But the move into extreme panic, into extreme fear, I think is definitely contraindicated, and in the longer term, it's clearly toxic. We tend to problematize the situation, then we get really stressed. And what happens then, of course, is we create another problem, which is that you've got this internal set of chemicals running around you in this closed feedback loop that just makes you unhappy and miserable. And I don't think we're at our best like that. The way we process a problematic situation is really important. I've been in situations, and perhaps you have too, where I've been problematized as the problem. And there's not much you can do with that environment except get out of it. We all need to grow as people. It's not the case that we don't have any issues that can be worked with. But it is symptomatic of the fact that people find it much easier to label external forces as the problem rather than deal on their own internal narrative, which might be, I don't know how to deal with the information this person's giving me. That's a little bit confronting. Goodness me, where are their social skills? What they mean is, I don't really care to hear this information. And that's because people are confronted by the fact that they're being asked to adjust the status quo. Well, we don't like adjusting the status quo. We like preserving the status quo, which would account for why people are stocking toilet paper in Sydney right now. It's not that they've suddenly succumbed to the need to have way more poos. It's that they want to be able to keep on having poos without any disruption to their dignity and their comfort for much longer than they think that they might need to, you know? It's not that we don't just want the status quo to be interrupted. We don't like the idea of the status quo being interrupted. And so we put safeguards in place. And now you have the absurd situation that people who really need toilet paper just can't get it, you know? And so in one of the outworkings of this whole I'm going to problematize the context or problematize everybody except my own reality is that you don't allow for anybody else's reality and you exclude other people's needs, other people's way of living from your own habitus. You make their habitus unendurable because you put yours primary. Perhaps a more useful way would be to sit back and try and be aware of how we're processing our context. I was reminded on the weekend of a beautiful verse from the New Testament scriptures which says, if anything is good, if anything is praiseworthy, if anything is noble, if anything is pure, think on those things. I think that scripture is there because we get caught up in so many noises and some of them are just not good for us. So deliberately make that shift in your head. I'm going to think that way. Is that denial? No. It's a choice of what we're going to do with our cognitive processes. What we think about becomes the thinking that shapes the way we process our habitus. And if you do that long enough, it becomes your habitus, right? Don't let your heart be troubled. Neither be dismayed. Again, why are those verses there? I think they're there because your heart can be troubled. Be kind to yourself. Recognize that in uncertain times we tend to lean into stress. This is really normal, right? And I think it's healthy up to a point. But also there are things we can do cognitively to limit, just our brain running around in circles and hop off that wagon. Hope that's been helpful. God bless. Leave a comment.